Watch this video if you've ever delivered a project, whether it's video, song, or podcast, and wondered, what happened to my content rights after payment? Today, we're going to demystify the often ignored topic of licensing in content creation, specifically what it means for you as a content creator. Now make sure you stick around to the end because I'll be revealing common licensing mistakes that could be costing you thousands in potential earnings every year. Plus, I'll provide tips to protect your content even when you work under a work for hire agreement. We'll also talk about the effects that AI is having on licensing and why you need to care about who really owns your content moving forward. What's really good is Ty, former Army combat photographer and founder of Flash Film Academy, the only place dedicated to helping photographers, filmmakers, musicians, and podcasters understand the business of content creation. Today, we're diving into a topic that's viral across all creative fields: licensing. We'll cover copyright ownership, why you must provide the right contract to your clients, and how the rise of AI-generated content will change the game. If you ever find your work has been used without permission, we have a solution for you. Also, remember, for those ready to dive deeper, we have a complete set of licensing agreements and contracts available at flashfilmacademy.com. In part 2, we'll break down how to customize those templates for various clients' needs and projects across music, podcasts, photography, and video. And on top of that, in part 2, I'll be providing you with a downloadable PDF quick guide that breaks down pricing so you'll understand when, where, and what you should be providing a licensing agreement for. So stay tuned. First things first, what is licensing and why does copyright matter? Licensing starts with copyright. When you create content, whether it's a song, a podcast episode, a video, or a photo, you are the copyright owner by default. This means you have the exclusive rights to reproduce, distribute, and modify that content. Unless you explicitly transfer those rights, they remain yours. An example of this is, think of your content like a song you composed or a podcast you recorded. You don't automatically give away the rights for others to remix, broadcast, or repackage your work. The same rules apply when it's a video, a podcast episode, or a new track you've recorded. Up next, let's talk about copyright and the role of the content creator in video, music, and podcasts. As the creator, copyright gives you the power on how your content is used. You can license it to clients in several ways, allowing limited or broad usage while still retaining ownership. This is why understanding licensing is essential. It lets you monetize your work while keeping control. And here's a quick tip. If you hold the copyright, you can resell the same song, video clip, or podcast episode to multiple clients under non-exclusive licensing, increasing your potential revenue. So what happens without a license or a work for hire agreement? Now here's a common situation that many creatives overlook. What happens if you're hired by a client and there's no licensing or work for hire agreement in place? In this case, you remain the copyright owner. Whether it's a song for a commercial, a podcast episode for a brand, or a video for a client, they have no legal rights to use, modify, or reproduce the content beyond what's implied in your verbal agreement. So why does this even matter? Imagine creating a music track for a commercial or producing a podcast episode for a client. For a client that assumes they have full usage rights without a contract. Misunderstandings are almost guaranteed. Let's talk about the solution. This is why you always want to present a proper contract package for each job, whether it's for a video, song, or a podcast episode. That package should include a licensing agreement to clarify who owns what and what rights the client is buying. Here at Flash Film Academy, we stress the importance of not just creating, but also legally protecting your work. A lot of you are leaving money on the table by not understanding licensing, and it's not hurting the client, it's really just hurting you. Up next, let's talk about the type of licensing, what you need to know for video, music, and podcasts. First things first, let's tackle exclusive licensing. The client is the only one who can use the content in specific ways. This often comes with a premium price because you're giving up the ability to license it to others. This should be the highest form of licensing you offer. Up next is non-exclusive licensing. You maintain the rights and can license the same content, be it a song, a podcast episode, or a video clip, to multiple clients. This is ideal for reusable content like background tracks, stock footage, or generic podcast segments. Let's talk about one-time licensing. Typically, the client gets one-time use rights. It's affordable for the client, but limits how and where they can use the content. Up next is perpetual license. Grants the client indefinite use. You can price this higher since it removes usage restrictions. Next, let's talk about royalty-based licensing. Payment is based on the client's usage, like the number of podcast downloads, video views, or song plays. This is a great way to build passive income, but requires a solid tracking system. Quick reminder, if you're looking for clear templates to use in your business, whether it's for music tracks, podcast episodes, or videos, we have a variety of licensing agreements and contracts available over at flashfilmacademy.com. These documents can make your negotiations simpler and more effective. Let's talk about something that's really important. It is your responsibility, not the client, to understand licensing. Here's the harsh truth. It's not the client's responsibility to understand the complexities of licensing. It's yours. Many clients don't realize they need a license to broadcast a song, to edit a video, or to repurpose podcast episodes. If you fail to educate them, you may lose control of your content. At Flash Film Academy, we emphasize mastering the business and legal side of content creation so that you can confidently lead those discussions with your client. The growing importance of licensing in the age of AI. As we move towards a future where AI-generated content is becoming more common, the value of protecting your intellectual property is skyrocketing. Imagine an AI model learning from your unique podcast style, mimicking your video edits, or repurposing a melody from your music track. This raises significant questions about copyright and licensing, making it essential to understand the rules now. So what's at risk? AI can generate content by mimicking established styles or sampling from existing work, be it a song, video, or a podcast. If you don't establish clear boundaries with licensing, your creative voice can be replicated without permission. Let's talk about why licensing matters more than ever. Protecting not just your footage, song, or podcast episodes, but it's also about protecting your style, your sound, and your creative identity. It all will become crucial as AI continue to evolve. Understanding licensing today means you're prepared for tomorrow's challenges. Now, here are some key factors to consider in your licensing agreements for video, music, and podcasting. Up first, let's think about scope of use. Define where and how the client can use the content. Is it for streaming, broadcasting, social media, or a combination? Up next, let's talk about duration of the license. Is the license for a lifetime, like a year, or is it like forever? Short-term licenses can generate recurring revenue if clients want to renew. Let's talk about modification rights. Do you allow the client to modify the song, video, or podcast content? If so, under what conditions? This should significantly impact the price. What about distribution channels? Specify if the content is for online use, radio broadcasts, streaming platforms, or TV. Different platforms may require different pricing. Up next, let's talk about protecting your copyright as a content creator across platforms. Always, and I mean always, include a clause in your agreement that outlines the usage rights. Even when a client purchases a license, make sure it's clear that the copyright remains with you, unless otherwise stated. This keeps you in control and the ability to repurpose the content for other clients if needed. Here's an advanced tip. Use metadata embedded in your files, whether it's a song, podcast, or video, as a silent safeguard, documenting your ownership and tracking how the content is being used. Also, keep the original program file, whatever that may be, for whatever piece of content you're creating. Let's talk about some real-world licensing examples and pitfalls. Case study number 1. You compose a song for a local commercial. If you license it non-exclusively, you can also license a similar version to other brands or businesses, multiplying your revenue. Case study number 2, if you produce a podcast episode for a client without a proper contract and they start sharing it on other platforms you didn't agree to, a licensing agreement would have protected you and clarified the terms. Now, the big question is what to do if somebody violates your licensing agreement or copyright, because it's all happened to us before. Let's say someone has violated your licensing agreement or copyright using your song, video, or podcast without permission. You don't got to jump straight into hiring a lawyer. Over at Flash Film Academy, we offer a cease and desist kit that pretty much guides you through your initial outreach to the potential violator. This can save you a lot of money and establishes the seriousness of your claim. Now that you understand why copyright is the cornerstone of licensing, how it directly impacts your power as a creator, and why it's your responsibility to protect your work, as AI-generated content starts playing a bigger role in our industry, impacting video, music, and podcasts, it's crucial to stay ahead of these changes. If you ever find your rights being violated, our cease and desist kit at Flash Film Academy can be your first step in defending your content, saving you the intermediate cost of a lawyer. In part 2, we'll take the foundational knowledge and go deeper into adapting Flash Film Academy's licensing templates for real-world scenarios. We'll even cover how to modify those agreements to fit unique client demands and maximize your profit. Don't forget, every business around you need content. Why aren't they hiring you? When you're ready to answer that question, join flashfilmacademy.com or download our app in your app store. As always, be inspired, be creative, be profitable. See y'all in the next video.
Prior to joining Flash Film Academy, I was just another freelance videographer struggling to find clients. After joining Flash Film Academy, within 3 months, I was able to get my first beta client and my first official paycheck to the business. I have to say, if you're looking to get Flash Film Academy, get it. It is well worth it if you implement the strategies and the techniques and knowledge that is imparted